this is probably one of the most important Pokemon Presents ever in the history of Nintendo. And I say this because there are a lot of things on the line based off of what we saw from Nintendo and the Pokemon Company with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Pokemon Legends Arceus, the backlash that was received, and the year-long plus absence of a big game that's still set to come out for the Nintendo Switch 1 and maybe the Nintendo Switch 2 with Pokemon Legends ZA. So in today's vid, we're going to talk about the Pokemon Presents that was announced recently and why this is so important for the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, and Nintendo. So let's go ahead and jump right into the announcement first. There was an announcement of a brand new Pokemon Presents. I will be streaming this live bright and early on the official Twitter page. The official Pokemon account says, here we go, trainers. February 27th, 6 a.m. PST, hashtag Pokemon Presents. They have a link there. They have a little video as well. And once again, I will be streaming the show bright and early, and it does seem like this show might have a bit more fireworks than usual, and we'll get into why in just a bit. But you guys are going to want to make sure that you tune in right here for this live reaction. We're going to be live probably a couple hours or so before, so I'll be up by like 4 a.m. I do have something that I have to do that day, but thankfully it's before that, and I talked about that a bit ago. So let's get into why this might be a bigger deal than usual, because Nintendo usually doesn't, I would say, talk about the Pokemon Presents, or at least maybe they retweet it, but they actually have two separate tweets on this that's got people thinking that this Pokemon Presents is going to be bigger than usual. So Nintendo of America quote tweeted the official Pokemon account with the announcement of the Pokemon Presents and said, who's ready for hashtag Pokemon Day with the eyes emoji. Now, some people are already speculating that, oh, this means we're going to see all of the classic games put into different collections and all that. Now, listen, I would love for that to happen, but it hasn't happened at this point, so I don't know if that's going to be a thing. I think they want people playing the newer games, but you never know. They could finally put some of the classic games that are not remade, but just like the classic Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or Pokemon Fire Red, Leaf Green. I mean, we don't have a DS NSO at this point, so they would definitely need to do like maybe the GBA games. We still don't have Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow. I mean, there's still a bunch of stuff, right, that they can do. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But the fact that Nintendo of America actually quote tweeted it and said, who's ready for it with the eyes emoji, it definitely seems like there's going to be some big information there. And that's probably with Pokemon Legends ZA. Now, Nintendo of America also once again followed up on this with another tweet about Pokemon Day. They said hashtag Pokemon Day is 2/27, but you can celebrate early at select Best Buy stores on 2/22 with hands-on gameplay of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, hashtag TCG trade and play events, and free giveaways while supplies last. You can find the stores there. I might check that out, to be honest, but either way, actually I'll probably be busy on that day when it comes to the time. I'm not sure if I will have time to go through, but yeah, I think that's actually pretty cool. Pokemon Presents the 27th. I'm looking at my calendar. That is a Thursday at 6 a.m. The 22nd, that is tomorrow as of the time that I'm recording this video. So Saturday, if you have time, if you're watching this before then yeah, go out there, check it out. There might be some stuff that you can go play, meet new friends, all sorts of stuff, play Pokemon Scarlet and Violet if you want. So definitely a little bit of a hype up primer to what's going to be going on. But if you want a faster way to actually meet new friends and be a part of a great community, you should consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Make sure you also hit that like button, hit that notification bell to get my vids as soon as they drop, and let me know what you're excited most when it comes to Pokemon Legends ZA and the upcoming Pokemon Presents. Now, here's the reason why I think that this is one of the most important Pokemon Present that Nintendo has done, because they pretty much went through this whole generation. They've sold a ton of games when it comes to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Pokemon Legends Arceus. I think they've sold over 100 million units of Pokemon games. So that is huge, that is big, and that is great for them. But at the same time, the quality of the Pokemon games has been iffy on certain releases. Now, yes, there's been some great stuff in terms of how it runs or looks, but there's been some quality issues, especially with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, to the point where Nintendo of America actually had to apologize and say, hey, we're going to do better. And another thing is that with Pokemon Legends ZA, they have not shown this game at all. If you remember, with Pokemon Legends Arceus, they showed the game, and man, it was a little bit rough when they first showed it. You had some bad frame rates of Pokemon in the open world, you had some pretty flat textures, and overall, not great quality when it comes to pop-up and things like that. Now, it was fixed up when it comes to frame rate by the final game release in 2022, but there was still quite a number of issues that people did point out, but at least it ran fairly decent, especially if you're playing it on the handheld mode. However, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was not as fortunate, as there was a lot of issues, a lot of backlash, and a lot of bad publicity overall. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet still sold incredibly well because the gameplay, when working fine, or when you're playing against your friends, or you're doing the online competitive modes, or you're playing the raid battles, it's awesome, but there was definitely issues overall with the graphics and the game. So they've said that they're going to do better. They have not shown Pokemon Legends ZA at all. So what does that tell me? Well, that tells me that they're actually cognizant and thinking about what they want to show and how they want to show it, and making sure that they wait till it's actually ready to be shown, so you don't have the here we go again, it's another bad looking, bad running game. Now listen, I don't think the graphics are going to be like, oh my gosh, incredible, this is the best thing ever, or look as good as Xenoblade Chronicles X, or look as good as The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, but I do think that they're going to do considerably better on the frame rate of the game, even compared to probably Pokemon Legends Arceus. I mean, that was already okay on the portable mode, but docked mode, it ran a bit under 30 frames at times. It would dip, then go back to 30. So having a solid set 30 for this game, and having the graphics be improved slightly or a bit from Pokemon Legends Arceus to Pokemon Legends ZA would definitely be ideal for this. And also, once again, make sure that you do all the little things that get Pokemon fans excited. Mega evolutions are big with the Pokemon community, so making sure that you nail that, having the right amount of Pokemon, not cutting corners or taking off some stuff when you can have that in there to put in the extra work, considering how passionate the Pokemon community is. All of that is going to play a factor into this. And this game, like I said, this is the first time that we've seen from when Nintendo said they will do better in the future. Are they actually going to hold up to that? Are they actually going to have a game that doesn't have the issues that we've seen with Pokemon Legends, like with the draw distance and some of the pop-ups and things like that, where it definitely looked pretty bad at times? So that's going to be the big thing with this game. But to me, the fact that they have not shown the game, that they haven't shown anything from it in a whole year, that's never happened in the history of a mainline big Pokemon game. Usually when they announce the game, they'll have something within the year or something within whenever the game is going to come out. The fact that they haven't shown anything at this point, that is crazy, and they've never done that before. So they are absolutely thinking very meticulously about how they're going to show this game and what they show when they show it. So that's the thing to me why this is so important, because they have been delaying in terms of revealing the game and not showing anything. We got one trailer and that's it, and they've still stated the game is going to be ready to go for this year in 2025. Now, there still could be a Nintendo Switch 2 angle that they are going to paint here. I'm not sure if it's going to be something that they're going to talk about too much, because that is before the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, where we're going to get all of the full details on it. So I'm not sure if there's going to be an announcement with the Nintendo Switch 2 and the Pokemon Legends ZA game, but it's definitely possible, just saying, hey, look, we also have a Nintendo Switch 2 version planned, which would definitely be a good thing for gamers out there, especially if they aren't able to really make the Nintendo Switch version up to snuff, or you can get a 60 frames per second version, potentially even, 4K or something, or DLSS better version of the game on the Nintendo Switch 2. That would be something that would be welcomed by a lot of gamers out there. And I think that the Nintendo Switch 2 overall is going to help the Pokemon company, because I don't think they're going to dramatically improve the graphics of their games. I think they're going to really focus on the functionality of the games, the online play, making sure that they add in as many Pokemon as possible, and making sure things run better with less glitches and less problems in the distances, or in the draw distance in the worlds and everything. I think they're really going to focus on that. So essentially take what we have already, slightly improve it for the Nintendo Switch 2, and then just really focus on making sure everything runs smooth and good and has less issues, because you cannot have a repeat of what we saw with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and to a way lesser degree Pokemon Legends. So I think it's going to be very interesting overall exactly how Nintendo, the Pokemon company, and Game Freak tackle this. Now, this is mainly, I would say, the Pokemon company and Game Freak situation They present it, they talk about it, they go about it. Nintendo's the publisher, so they're not necessarily 100% hands-on with how they're going to run their show, but I'm almost positive Nintendo of America obviously knows what they're going to be doing, or Nintendo knows what they're going to be doing and planning it. And I do think that them, the Pokemon company, Game Freak, it was more like Game Freak, moving right next to Nintendo and actually being right there in the building to collaborate and talk about hardware and talk about what they want to do and planning, potentially have more people internally be moved over. All of that is going to help, hopefully, with the Pokemon games, with Pokemon Legends ZA, with the next generation of Pokemon, and of course, Pokemon games on the Nintendo Switch 2 that are built for the system. So we will see how all of that works out coming up on February 27th, and of course, later this year when the Nintendo Switch 2 arrives. But speaking of the Nintendo Switch 2, let's talk a little bit more about what some game developers apparently are expecting with the Nintendo Switch 2's SoC and RAM increase. Shoutouts to Notebook Check. They actually had a pretty decent sized article on this, and I wanted to go over what they had to say about the Nintendo Switch 2's CPU, GPU, and RAM that apparently has some game developers excited about this because they'll be able to run Nintendo Switch 2 games more smoothly than what we saw with the Nintendo Switch 1 when it comes to porting over titles. So there was a talk back and forth on this. If you go over the website, what they talk about here in a recent interview with Automation, a handful of game developers who specialize in porting games to Nintendo Switch detailed their frustrations with the slower hardware of the Nintendo Switch 1. The biggest issues related to porting games to the first gen Switch hardware came from limited hardware on essentially all fronts. According to the developers, limited RAM, half the amount that more powerful contemporaries could count on, meant that game files and in-game textures had to be compressed to the limit to save memory. Likewise, the low-spec CPU, developers either spent a lot of time optimizing their games to preload textures and game environments, introducing load screens in the process, or simply allowed the already occupied CPU to take on the extra burden of background processing, which would result in performance degradation or frame rate drops. Quote, "We had to compress textures to the limit to save memory, but the trade-off was that the more memory that we freed up, the better the game would look, making the process feel like solving a puzzle. When I think about it that way, it was actually fun," an unnamed developer who spoke with Automation said. Now, the relatively low-powered GPU in the Nintendo Switch also meant developers had to drop their target resolutions from 1440p to 4K, the more recent console generations to around 540p to 720p for the Nintendo Switch ports. In many cases, the target resolution for game ports was as little as 25% of the Switch's own native 720p display. Now, what can you expect with the Nintendo Switch 2? When asked what they were excited about for the Nintendo Switch 2, the port developers expressed excitement about being able to bring more games to the gaming handheld, specifically referring to those developed for more recent consoles, like the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Nintendo has yet to reveal exact specifications for the Nintendo Switch 2, but there are some leaks that indicate that the new system will pack around 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM and an 8nm SoC that should serve up a significantly higher CPU and GPU performance, which should make both native Switch games and ports easier to run and develop. So there you go with that. And yeah, absolutely. I think that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be a system that's going to be able to port over games easier than what we saw from PS4 and Xbox One to Switch. I think it's going to be easier to get that process to port over from Xbox Series and PS5 to Nintendo Switch 2. Yes, the Nintendo Switch 2 is not going to be as powerful as PS5 or Xbox Series X, but I do think that it's going to be in the ballpark of what we've seen with some of the other systems that are out there with like Xbox Series S or Steam Deck and all that. And I think it's going to be able to do some stuff with the DLSS and how it's actually developed, the custom chip, to where you are going to be able to get some pretty impressive ports anywhere that you want, and then get maybe even a bit better performance when it's docked up. So I think that was also revealed too. And the RAM account is pretty good as well, since the CPU and GPU are going to be custom. So things are going to be really good, especially when a developer takes their time to actually put a game on the system. And I can't wait to see what Nintendo has to offer. Monolith Soft is going to go ham on this thing. Like the next big Mario game, the next big Zelda game, those are all going to be pretty incredible, a sight to see on the Switch 2. So what do you guys think about everything that we discussed here when it comes to the Pokemon Legends ZA and Pokemon Day, in addition to the Nintendo Switch 2? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.